It's good to be with you. Let's start here, why don't we? Judgment has been reserved in the Ithala Bank liquidation legal battle. This after the Reserve Bank's Prudential Authority filed for provincial liquidation of the bank, citing non-compliance. Following this application, Ithala Bank filed an urgent application to counter the Prudential Authority's application. The provincial government has rallied in support of the bank, calling it a cornerstone for many communities across the province. Silethiwe Ndlovu was in court and she joins me now. Silethiwe, won't you just give us just a summary as well here of this judgment being reserved ultimately, and the big question mark around Ithala being the cornerstone of the community, but at the same time still not adhering to Prudential Authority laws?
Precisely, and really there was quite a bit that was said during those court proceedings, and one can also look at it as a twofold where it was stated that the RA under the PA was filing that application where it was a leave to appeal, but also we know that Ithala Bank then was also requesting that the courts allow them to continue to operate normally. And I just want to bring in the MEC for Finance, Francois Rogers, to speak to us more. Perhaps firstly, just your take on what transpired here today.
Well, you know, my answer to you would be there was some senior counsel, there were lots of lawyers in that room. And I'm the money man, and I just think, how much money did that cost us today? You know, when we could be sitting around a table and actually coming up with a solution. And I think ultimately that's what it's going to take. You know, we can stay days, weeks, months, years in court. But at the end of the day, we've got people who have money in Ithala. We have small emerging businesses. We have retired pensioners who have their money in there and they can't get access to that money. There needs to be a solution, and there can be a solution within the framework, the legal framework of banking in the province.
We have, of course, heard that the provincial government has rallied in support of the Ithala Bank. Perhaps just to reiterate your stance in terms of the liquidation application that has been filed.
Well, look, this is a problem that we've inherited in this government of provincial unity. But I've been involved as MEC of Finance since last year, where again I tried to get role players around a table to see if we could come up with an amicable solution rather than spending our time in court. And I still believe that is the process. I then took it a step further. I engaged the National Minister of Finance because the RA and the PA believe that there's a shortfall in the deposit book versus the cash that Ithala have on hand. And we have engaged the National Minister. We have been given by the National Minister an approval that we will be given that guarantee. It is now with the DG of National Treasury. We've done all the work as the province. The National Minister's done the work. And my appeal now to the DG of National Treasury is convene the Loans Committee so that we can get this matter resolved and we can move on. Because ultimately what we need to do, we need to ensure people have access to that money, but we also need to know that we work in a legal framework. Ithala doesn't have a license. We understand that, we recognize that. A commercial bank could take over the depositor's book, operate that on behalf of Ithala until we sort out the legalities of Ithala.
A number of people, of course, currently are being impacted by this legal battle that is ongoing. What would you say would be the financial and economic impact if the liquidation application is then approved?
Well, it'll be dire. You know, people won't be able to get the money that they've invested in the bank, that they've deposited. Small businesses, medium businesses, large businesses that bank with Ithala will also feel that pain, because as it's currently structured, Ithala, like any other commercial bank, if suddenly the RA says we must repay every single depositor, the bank doesn't have that money, but nor does any other commercial bank. It's not a requirement. So that's another question we keep asking ourselves. Why in this case? Why in this particular case do we have to put a guarantee one for one? Perhaps it's because there is no license, but that license is something we can sort out. Let's just get a commercial bank to take over the debtors book until we resolve those issues.
And maybe then just lastly, before we let you go, would you be of the opinion that the decision to file that liquidation application is too severe, and maybe there's other alternatives that could have been resorted to before they actually filed that application?
So our understanding as Treasury is the bank is liquid. We look at the assets, we look at the liabilities, and we see that there is liquidity. The Auditor General that assesses all our state-owned entities, our departments, and in this case the provincial entity, has also come up with a clean audit for Ithala. So, you know, it would be interesting for us to actually sit down and look at what the PA and the RA says about the liquidity of Ithala, because we certainly are of the belief that it is a liquid and it is a going concern.
MEC, thank you so much for speaking to us this afternoon. The MEC for the KZN MEC for Finance, Francois Rogers. As you heard from that conversation, there's quite a bit really when you are looking at today's court proceedings, but we do know that the judge then has stated that the decision will be handed down at a later stage. But from that conversation that we just heard from the MEC, one can then say that it has been reiterated that the provincial government then is still in support of Ithala Bank, where we know, Arabile, as you have already mentioned, a lot of them saying that the bank is a cornerstone to a number of rural communities that we have here around KZN.
Yeah, it's about finding their clarity with regards to where exactly the funding lies when it comes to this bank, because there's a lot of skirting of laws that seems to have actually happened a little bit here. So really getting to the bottom of this one is going to be very important to ensuring that everyone in the province is also treated fairly here. So Silethiwe Ndlovu, thank you for that reporting.